And so now is a part of our time in the service where it says sermon, and not to worry, I don't plan on speaking for more than 45 minutes. So I was thinking about what to say for today, and I was reminded of not one, but two stories, both of which are interrelated. And as I was at Osrui a number of weeks ago, I said, I'd like to tell this story for Shabbat, and my colleague, my classmate said, that story gets told every year. And so I was like, well, I'll tell a different story. I told a different story. It was wonderful. It was beautiful. But this story just feels somehow appropriate for this particular Shabbat. And as the story goes, there was a community back in the old country. No, not New York. Back in the old country. And what had happened is their shul, their Beit Knesset, as we borrow from the Greek, their synagogue had fallen into disrepair. And they weren't sure what to do as a community, so they gathered all the wise people in the community, and they all got together, and they discussed, and they argued, and they grumbled, and then they ate, and then they argued, and then they discussed, and then they grumbled, and then they ate. And eventually they realized that the synagogue, the Beit Knesset, the shul, was beyond repair, and something needed to be done about it. So they convened a committee to discuss what should be done about the synagogue, the shul, the Beit Knesset that had fallen in disrepair. And this committee met, and they had focus group. Wait, no, that's modern. They met, they discussed, and they realized they needed to take down the walls, they needed to take down the beams, they needed to take down the seats, and they needed to build something new. But in order to do that, they needed to gather the support of the whole community. And so they rallied the whole community together, and everybody offered, from the wood choppers to the water drawers to the seamstresses to the tailors. Everybody participated, everybody gave. And pretty soon they had all the supplies, and they began to build. One beam after another, slowly over time, the walls began to arise for their new Beit Knesset, their new shul, their new synagogue. And it was very beautifully drawn, very beautifully envisioned. And over time, because of everyone's wonderful gifts, they built this beautiful, brand new place for the whole community to gather together, to be able to be, as a community, to celebrate tradition and to celebrate their understanding of God. And they were so excited because they had it done just in time for Erev Rosh Hashanah. And they knew Rosh Hashanah was the beginning of the Yamim Noraim, the high holy days. It was a time for all of them not just to be together, not just to celebrate the new year, not just to engage in teshuvah, which is thinking about how to re-engage their souls in the correct pathways, but was a chance to celebrate all that their community had provided. And so they all had their Erev Rosh Hashanah meals, and then they all began to go to the synagogue to be able to pray. And as the sun went down, they all gathered together in their beautiful Beit Knesset, their beautiful shul, their beautiful synagogue. And they all had their machzorim, their high holy day prayer books. And the sun began to set, and they began to pray. And then next thing they knew, they couldn't read their machzors because there was no light in the building. Built this beautiful facility, but they forgot to provide lights. And they said, Rabbi, we can't see our prayer books. What are we supposed to do? And so the rabbi thought about it. Finally, she said to them, quick, before the sun sets, we need to all go out and gather lights from our home and bring them into this beautiful setting so that way we can see. And so everybody raced out. They grabbed flashlights, they grabbed torches, whatever they could, and they raced in to bring it in before the sun had set. And each person brought lights with them, and that light illuminated the whole room. And that night when the rabbi spoke, she said, you know, until you brought light into this room, this was a beautiful but empty space. And only your light has been able to fill it up and to enable us to see each other and to encounter that which is holy. And I was thinking about that story because tonight we're in a slightly different space. By necessity And if we'd been back in the synagogue at Temple Israel, obviously would not be a problem because we have 6 o'clock services, but services have been later without power. We would have had no light. And we would have need people to bring in their own light. So what happens is your presence here, whether here physically or those joining us virtually, your presence brings light to us. And without your presence, our light would be diminished just a little bit. And so as you go out into the world, especially in times of great challenge, remember, if there's one great gift each of us has to offer, it's the light of our souls that help illumine the world. Now, I also mentioned that I'd be telling a second story. This one, it's not really a story, but more of a midrash. Another way to think about this, because I believe in Newton's law of midrashim, for every midrash there's an equal and opposite midrash. This one's not exactly equal and opposite, but it is certainly equal in that, how many of you guys have seen a Torah? Everybody seen a Torah? How many of you guys have seen what's written in a Torah? It's all consonants, right? There are no vowels, there are no trope marks, there are no periods, there's no punctuation, nothing, just consonants. Which means there's something missing in the Torah. In order for the Torah to live, we have to bring those vowels. We have to bring those paragraphs. We have to bring those punctuation marks. We are the ones who make Torah live. Because without it, it's just parchment with a series of consonants. And so not only do we need to bring the sparks of our lights in our souls to allow light to illumine the world, but also our very souls are what brings our tradition to life as well. And so how beautiful it is that we are not only all here, but we have so many adorable children here with us too. Because you guys and girls are the ones who help bring those sparks and remind us, not just of what we do, but also your presence brings joy and light and holiness to what we do as Jews and what we do as human beings. So no matter the space that we may encounter, no matter the space where we may be in out of necessity or opportunity, we have a chance to fill that space with light and with holiness. Shabbat shalom, everyone.